post them and for them to have the opportunity to speak about the amazing seems too brief a word, but the amazing and heartwarming work that they are doing basically at a grassroots level. Now, all of Road to Recovery's staff are in fact just volunteers. They do it for the, to coin a Hebrew Yiddish word, nachas. They do it for the nachas, and they do it because at the very essence of Road to Recovery's belief system is that bit by bit, family by family, they can reach out and forge relationships with the other side, the Palestinian people, and bridge the divide that exists between the Palestinians and the Israelis. And, they're managing to do that bit by bit. They forge often deep relationships with Palestinian children, with their parents. And, you can imagine how difficult it is. And I certainly can as a parent myself, that, if you've got a child and they're going into, because they desperately need urgent medical attention that isn't available in the Palestinian territories or in Gaza, that they have to essentially travel into what their leaders perceive as enemy territory. It's very intimidating. They don't necessarily speak Hebrew. They don't necessarily speak much English. And they are entrusting themselves and the safety of their children into the hands of Israeli strangers. And, without going into too much detail, you'll be hearing about all of the, the stories, their work, all of the stories about the relationships that they build. And just I hope that you'll all agree that this for us is a very heartwarming NGO. So I think, as I said, on behalf of the WZO here in the UK and the ZF, we'd also like to just, before I hand over to Alona Abt, that we give a shout out, a thanks to Danny Raver, who helped to bring Derekh Lahachlama to us. So thank you, Danny. I can see that you've joined us this evening. And I know that some of Alona's family and friends, and forgive me, Johnny, I think you mentioned that you also have family here,
yes,
but some of them are joining us this evening. So welcome, everyone. Without further ado, I will just ask that you all turn off your videos and that you all mute yourself so that we can focus in on the speakers, and that they don't have any distractions, for everyone else as they're speaking. So if you can all turn off your videos, that will be much appreciated. Please don't take it personally. We just find that this is the best way to operate these webinars. It helps keep people focused on the speakers rather than all of us who are in attendance. So if you can work with us on that, that's much appreciated. And without further ado, I hand you over to Derekh Lahachlama, Road to Recovery's Alona Abt. Thank you.
Toda rabba. Good evening to you all. I'm very excited to be talking on behalf of Derekh Lahachlama. My colleagues are here with me, and we'll all be available for questions after. This is a special event for me because I myself, although I'm a Sabra and my life is rooted here in Israel, I'm a daughter of immigrants, and my mother made Aliyah from London. And so it's a very special feeling to be talking to you and knowing that among you are friends of her Kvutzat Aliyah. I'll be happy to start by sharing a very short clip, a video clip, and I'll be happy if Dima can press the play button for us.
ואדי ערה. עבור מרבית המשתמשים בו, השער הזה הוא מפתח לחיים של כבוד. אבל יש גם מי שמבחינתו הכניסה בשעריו היא פשוט תנאי לחיים.
כל שבוע פעמיים, 6 פעמים. אני אקח את הבת שלי לבית חולים שיבא בתל אביב, אקח לשערי צדק.
כשאמג'ד עובר את הגבול, מחכים לו בצד השני מלאכי המחסום.
ב-17 השנים האחרונות, המושב האחורי הזה כבר ידע לא מעט דרמות. ואז החליט יובל רוט להקדיש את חייו להסעת חולים פלסטינאים לטיפולים רפואיים בישראל.
זה לא היה תולדה של איזו חשיבה מושכלת, אני רוצה להקים ארגון כזה. זה היה פשוט ענות לפנייה של חבר פלסטיני מהפורום שלנו.
פורום שנקרא פורום משפחות שכולות, ישראלי פלסטיני.
שביקש ממני להסיע את אחיו לרמב"ם. לקחתי אותו לרמב"ם, ומפה בעצם זה התחיל להתגלגל. כשראיתי שאני לא עומד בהיקף, התחלתי לבקש עזרה בהתחלה מהמעגלים הקרובים אליי. וכשראיתי שאנחנו גם לא משתלטים על ההיקף, אז פנינו לעולם, לקיבוץ חצרים, לכל הכיוונים. וככה התחילה לגבש קבוצה של מתנדבים.
אני בכלל לא רואה בפעילות הזאת פעילות פוליטית. ולהפך, אני רואה בפעילות הזאת משהו שהוא קשור אליי, שאני יכולה לעשות שם משהו, כי לעמוד ולהפגין, אני לא מוצאת שזה עושה באמת משהו.
באתי לפני 8 שנים מפה, כן. רציתי שיש להם מחלת תלסמיה בדם. הכרתי יובל לפני 4 שנים. הייתי מביא אוטו לבד, הייתי משלם לו אוטו 500 שקל. למה שהוא צריך להיות, יישאר איתי ומחזיר אותי.
אני חושב שמכל האוכלוסיות המוחלשות, אלה המוחלשים ביותר, ואם יש מקום לעורר זיק תקווה, אז את הרסיס הזה אפשר לזרוע גם כאן.
הייתי חולה ב-2008 בסרטן דם, חזרה המחלה ב-2010, והלכתי, התקשרתי ליובל, הוא אגב לי בסדר, אנחנו בבוקר נבוא למחסום, לקח אותך לחיפה, לרמב"ם. אם אני רוצה משהו, יובל יביא כל משהו, והולך. והיה היום קשה שלי, זה מן הסרטן הזה.
يعني من إغز مثلا إذا حبيت تطلعي على الرمبة بدون متطوع
بعد الشركة بتكلم
המפגש האינטימי הזה שנוצר בהסעות, אני קורא לזה אפשרות לעשות שלום קטן של שעה. פשוט אתה שעה נמצא עם בן אדם, עושה שלום קטן. השלום הקטן הזה רק אחרי זה מהדהד, אחרי שהוא יוצא מהאוטו לתוך הזה, וזה מקרין בצד השני, אני יכול להגיד בוודאות.
Thank you. Okay, I'll just share my screen now. Just a second, please. Just 1 second. Oops. Excuse me a second. 1 minute. Okay, so as I said earlier, my name is Alona Apt. I'm talking to you from Ramat HaSharon. We too are under lockdown. It's been a very strange year all around the world. Maybe today's new start with Biden is a sign for returning to some kind of normality. I hope part of you have already had the pleasure of getting a jab and being yourself on your private road to recovery and health. I live in Ramat HaSharon and I actually have a very privileged life. There's a job I like. I have a wonderful family. These are my 3 kids. This was a picture taken on the day my son joined Tzahal. But we live in a very volatile neighborhood, and I have a fear for the threat of human rights and democracy, and the constant dealing with the very violent kind of life that we live in. And I felt that it's time to stop moaning and just hoping that someone else will deal with the situation. And I was looking for something that I can do. And I'm very happy that I got to know Road to Recovery because it gives me the opportunity to feel that there's something that as an individual I can do in order to bring on the light. What we do is very simple. We drive Palestinians who have who need life-saving treatments in Israel from border checkpoints around Israel to different hospitals in Israel. Most of our patients, the patients that we take are children. They all have life-threatening diseases. This means that some of them may need many treatments. Lately, we've had one child that needs nearly a daily trip from the West Bank into Israel. These are people that they don't have the appropriate treatment they need in the Palestinian Authority. And there is an agreement by which the Palestinian Authority pays hospitals in Israel for this treatment. But families that are dealing with so many problems, they also have severe economical difficulties. So many of them can't afford the transportation. It's not an organized place, the crossroad points, and some of them, if it was not for our help, we just wouldn't make it to the medical treatment. It's a very long day for a family that needs to come over. Even if the village is only a few kilometers from the crossing point, you have to be early in the morning. The child and parent may have to wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning in order to be there at 6 o'clock. And at 6 o'clock, once they cross over to the other side, one of our volunteers will be waiting for them.
She's still talking.
So this is just an example of one of the many volunteers that I'll be presenting some of them. This is just a sample of the very different people that are part of our organizations. There are people from different communities, different lifestyles.
You want to leave it?
Different lifestyles and different occupations. It's a very individual kind of voluntary work because it's you in your private car on the day that you choose to make the ride, but we all have one thing in common. It's people that want to do something simple, practical, that we know it's worth for the people that will be helped by it. To have 100 cars each day going to 7 crossroads demands a very well organized coordination system. We've lately, our volunteers have recruited some students, and together we have with them, the volunteer that took charge of it, and I know he's here among the audience as well, Amir, have created an app by which we put in all the details of the patients that need a ride, and each volunteer can use his mobile device in order to say, yeah, I can take that trip. We do the trip to the hospital, that's very early in the morning for the early birds, or in the afternoon, taking them back from the hospital to the crossroad. All our work is done voluntary. This means that we have today over 2,000, close to 2,000 volunteers. Not all of them are active drivers. Some of them do different things. I'll be sharing with you what I do, and but it's really amazing that we managed to operate such a large-scale operation with no paid personnel. How did it all start? Yuval Roth and Yael are here among the audience, and they'll be happy to answer questions. Yuval created this wonderful organization which stemmed out of his very personal tragedy. Yuval lost his younger brother 10 years, more than 10 years ago. His brother was murdered by the Hamas. And Yuval joined the circle of bereaved Israeli and Palestinian bereaved families. And one day, a friend of Yuval in the circle, Palestinian friend, said, can you do me a favor and help me out? My brother needs treatment in Rambam Hospital. And Yuval said, sure, I'll help. And very quickly, a friend brought a friend, and the rumor was out, and Yuval was recruiting his family, his neighbors, people living in his town. And not long after, the manager of Leonard Cohen visited in Israel. And while they were talking, he took out his checkbook and wrote a check and said, this is for your organization. And Yuval said, but there is no organization. We're just a bunch of people working together to do this. And the manager gave him a hard look and said, well, get your organization up and running. And that's how it really started. And today, as I mentioned, it's a daily operation, nearly every day of the week, with 2,000 volunteers. Up to this year, we've been on a constant growth. We do 10,000 car trips a year. In each car, we usually have 2 patients, and each patient is permitted 1 escort. So that means that as a driver, I'm sitting in my private car with another 3 people at the back and a person next to me. So it's 20,000 patient rides per year. These are the charts are up to 2019, and 2020 was, of course, the pandemic year. And the pandemic was not an easy challenge. Many of our volunteers are in the risk age themselves. So they had to look after themselves and stay home. And also for the people that we drive, many of them have a very weak immune system. And the idea of being within a car with other people was problematic. So you can see here how there was a very big fall at around March, April. And then one of our volunteers put in his private Facebook post and said, I've been doing this voluntary work for so long and I can't do it at the moment. And but I feel very badly because there are people that need help. And we were amazed, but 400 young volunteers joined us and help us carry out all the trips. Today, we are answering all the needs that come to our attention. And we've had all in all this year, 15,000 patient rides. I personally, a few years ago, stopped driving and concentrated on these days at the sea. This is something that I took upon myself. It's 1 out of 3 days which we do each year, except for the last one. We invite the people that we drive, as well as their families, like it's about 50 families, bring up to 5 members, for a day in which they can relax, refuel their energies, because we really understand that body and soul are so connected, And it's not only about getting the right medicine and right medical treatment, but it's also about their ability to suck in some human warmth and the happy moments. I remember that in one of these days, I was looking at the people having fun in the water all this day with 200 Palestinians, 100 Israeli volunteers. Among the volunteers, there was a very big group of Arab Israeli volunteers that helped. Their help was especially interesting because in our reality in Israel, there are not many opportunities in which Jews and Arab Israelis can stand on the same side and reach out to the other. And of course, their ability to speak Arabic was also a practical help. And I remember as I was looking at all these people just enjoying the gift of nature and the beauty of the sea and the sun, Yael, who was standing next to me, said to me, look at that, can you see that? That's how peace will look like. So this has been a very special day for me each time that I had the privilege of having it organized. And it's really a very inspiring moment to see how it's possible. Then in the intimacy of the car, every ride is a very different ride. Sometimes, as I said, it's very early in the morning and people are just very tired. They started their day at 4 o'clock in the morning and they just nod off. Sometimes there's a language barrier because most of our volunteers don't speak Arabic, and many of the people that we drive don't speak a good Hebrew or no Hebrew at all. So we have now volunteers, Arab volunteers that help us out with translation. And there are many of our volunteers that have expressed an interest, and we've even started courses to learn Arabic. And it's really up to each person to create their own relations within this little intimacy of the 1 hour drive. This is just one story of the many, many stories that I chose to share with you. This is Israeli Dansky. He lives in Haifa. He's a Holocaust survivor. He wasn't too keen to continue driving as much as he used to in earlier years. But when he met this young boy, Taysir, who needed a kidney transport, there was just a very special click with him. And Azriel just took him under his wings, and for 2 years in which the boy was getting treatments and the preparation for the transplant and after the transplant, Azriel just wrapped him with a lot of care, helping his parents when they had to be next to his bedside. And this is a lovely smile of Taysir some years after. Sometimes the stories don't have a happy ending. This is a picture of Amna Faraj. She was a young, beautiful, beautiful young girl that I remember from one of the days at the sea. This is when the picture was taken. And unfortunately, she is not with us any longer. And when a patient passes away, we make sure to go and visit a condolence visit to the family. And this too is a very strong emotional meeting because the families really understand that we're coming out of with an open heart and with good intention, not only to help them at the time where when they were hoping for salvation for their dearest one, but also coming with respect and with sharing the memory of the person that we drove for long. Amna, for instance, I think it was about 4 years of many trips that our volunteers took her. And for the people that do get through the treatments and the medical care, this is a letter from Khaled Zidun, which I would like to read out quickly to you. Dear Yuval, I've never had a good chance to talk to you openly. I think you're doing the most amazing thing ever in regards of the conflict in this area. Personally speaking, you, all your friends, and all the beautiful people in Rambam saved my life twice. First from cancer. The second time is from being close-minded fanatic. All Palestinians, I think, as all Palestinians, I think I was brainwashed to hate everyone, especially Jews. What you are doing is one of the reasons why I now press for peace and do whatever I can from my place as an English teacher to make more people hope and seek peace too. Thank you so much, sir. We strongly believe that although what we're doing is on a very personal level, it's a person-to-person meeting, a people-to-people meeting, there is a ripple effect from the family to the extended family, the Hamula, the entire village, and the entire Palestinian community. And we believe that except for expressing our human basic feelings and compassion, we really feel this is a way to create deeper connections with our neighbors. Yearly, we have over 40,000 people-to-people meeting. This is an incredible number in the reality we live in, where there's total separation between Israelis and Palestinians. So we feel this is a very deep meeting on the individual level and a grand opportunity in the numbers that we're reaching. I've added here to the screen a letter that we recently got from Bassam Amal, which is the organization in Gaza that helps coordinate the Palestinian patients from the Palestinian side. This is a letter that they just wrote not long ago, just expressing their thanks, especially in this year where COVID-19 made everyone aware of how health is important and how shaky life can be when you're not healthy, and especially there are all the additional barriers that Palestinians have, and that we Israelis feel that we can narrow part of them and make it easier for some of them. Thank you very much, and if there are any questions, we'll be very happy to answer.
Wow, Alona, thank you for that insight. I mean, you know, I've been watching it as I'm sure I can speak for everyone else who's joined us tonight. It is inspirational, it's heartwarming, and amazing to hear that there's people from both sides, especially perhaps for us, even more so, you know, when you mentioned Gaza, and you showed that certificate or letter in your last slide from, sorry, I can't recall the name of the organization, but the facilitators in Gaza, to see such, you know, such expressions of appreciation from a, you know, from an area that in the international media is portrayed so mired in hatred and conflict. It's really eye-opening and heartwarming. So thank you very much for sharing that. We've had quite a few questions, and I noticed that some people have been answering them, but I'll still ask them to you so that it gives everyone who might not be engaged in the chat facility the opportunity to hear them. Just one that springs up in my mind is how, you know, you've cited some amazing statistics, something like 40,000 person-to-person contacts per year. That's, as you said, in the context of the conflict and the you know the general degree of separation between Israelis and Palestinians. That's an amazing statistic. How many people do you find that do you actually maintain long-term contact with some of these people? If so, how do you do it? Are there challenges in doing so?
I'll give the short answer, and I'll be happy if Yuval will help me out with, because he knows all the stories of all the rides. Yuval is not only the founder of the organization, but he also rides himself nearly daily. The story of Azriel is just one story. I remember that on the first day at the sea that I organized, I remember one of the volunteers coming, and when he removed his shirt and removed his other clothes, I understood that he had an amputated leg. And it was a sight I will never forget, that a few minutes later, the bus with the children, with our visitors coming to the day at the sea arrived. So first of all, there was a roar from the bus saying, the sea, because you must understand that for many Palestinians living on the West Bank, a sea is something that they may have not seen in their life. It's better than any Luna Park that you could take them to. And then one of the children was a young boy that had severe orthopedic problems. And this volunteer just like adopted him and made sure that whenever he needed a ride, he wanted to take him. So some of our volunteers request, once there's a personal connection, they request to coordinate their rides with the patient rides. And some of them just say, I can do it on Monday at 6 o'clock in the morning, and מי שבא, ברוך הבא. Yuval, but maybe you have a different additional story.
We have a lot, thousands of stories, I think. Unfortunately, we lost one of our patients that we used to transport the last 3 years. She died a few days ago. We will come to the family, of course, but it's just example of the connections that between the volunteer and between the patient. One of her name is Dalal Abu Razale. She was born in Jericho, and one of our volunteers, she just wrote a little. She wrote, she was just 17 years when she died. She was a beautiful and a very talented girl. She spoke good English. I loved her. That's what she wrote. We planned to go together to see snow in Jerusalem, because she in her life, Dalal, she haven't have a chance to see snow. We thought that what Bat Ami wrote, we thought that she will she will publish the book. Dalal will publish a book. Bat Ami prepare the kricha, the book,
the book cover.
Yeah, the book cover. She wrote. We had Bat Ami and Dalal. We had a lot of plans and dreams that will never will never get
realized.
She wrote, I don't have a word to condole the family. It is a big loss and a big pain.
Wow, that's heart-wrenching. I mean, beautiful, but heart-wrenching as well. May you rest in peace.
If I may, just also to ask Yuval, can you share with us the story also from the other side, from the Palestinian side of I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the young man that requested his brothers to continue after him with his car.
Ayman.
Yeah, one of
the story just to show that it's not only a one-sided relation, but also what the effect is on.
We are talking about a guy, his name is Ayman Qasim from Jenin, that we used to take him again for a long time, long period. And he established a kind of a little organization in Jenin. He was inspired by our organization to transport patient around Jenin to the hospital in Jenin. And he said that this is what he learned from us. He was an amazing guy because he was very ill. Unfortunately, he died half a year before. And his tzava,
Will. His will.
His will that after he will die, his family will continue to do it. And that's what happened today. And we support them in terms of just send them money for the gas, for the fuel.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you. We have a question here. To what extent does if in fact any at all, to what extent does the Palestinian Authority acknowledge these acts of humanity from and kindness from such an organization as yourselves? Is there, Johnny, maybe you can answer this one. Explain a little bit about if there is any acknowledgement, where it comes from. Does it come from an official source in the Palestinian Authority, for example?
I can tell you that a few months ago, before the corona, we were invited to Ramallah, that is Palestinian territory, as guests of the authority, or of, I would say, a certain committee of the authority. And we were invited for lunch. We got lectures from different representatives there. We were even visiting the Yasser Arafat grave and museum. And when we went into Ramallah, the local police stopped the transportation so the two buses that came in could drive freely directly with no disturbance. Now,
Sorry, Johnny.
Johnny, אתה סגור.
Your mic.
אתה סגור, Johnny.
Was it closed all the time?
No.
Suddenly, okay, whatever. However,
so the two buses could travel freely, you mentioned.
They could travel freely. We got a certain plaque. We got a certain recognition on one hand. On the other hand, I'm sure that Yuval, that is connected much more and could tell some more about the connection between the authority and the road to recovery.
Okay, Yuval, can you explain a little bit more, perhaps?
Also, the mayor of Jenin, it's a big area, invite all the volunteers of road recovery twice in the past. And again, each time they just want to thank us and to say how important this job, because again, road to recovery, it's not just to bring somebody from A to B. Road to recovery is what happened between A to B, and this is the point. What Khalid Ziud, what Alona, this is what road to recovery about, and it's again and again in every meeting, when we are coming to the families, they mention that they kind of discover a different face of the Israeli, because in their reality, they know just soldiers, settlers, checkpoints, and so on. And all of a sudden, they see that there is another kind of people in Israel. So for me, this is what's World Recovery about.
I would like to add something more, and another story that I'm not even sure that Yuval knows the story. But one of our volunteers, his name is Igal, drove to Jordan with another group, with a group of people, and the border was blocked because of a certain new rule that wanted this kind of paper certificate is not the other kind of certificate. And he went, our volunteer went quietly to the manager of the checkpoint and showed him the certificate that he volunteers in road recovery. And immediately he let him in with his friends, no problem, nothing, go on. So even he somehow knew about it.
Amazing.
It is a very quiet organization. It is a very modest organization, but in the right places, it's quite well known.
Yeah, an amazing organization. Actually, one of my colleagues who's watching on Facebook reminded me that we, every now and then, obviously before the pandemic hit, we take groups of activists, pro-Israel activists, and others who have never been to Israel before. We take them on trips to Israel, and on a couple of occasions, we've taken people to the Erez crossing with Gaza, and they've actually seen this happening, up close and personal. These journeys. So we look forward to, please God, a time in a not too distant future when we can return to Israel and please God, meet you in person. In the meantime, there's another question here about communication. So you have your network of volunteers. They're meeting Palestinians. How do they communicate? Does Road to Recovery provide any training in Arabic? How and on from that, how communicating are the Palestinians who I would imagine would feel quite intimidated, scared because of the situation that either they are facing with their health or their children, and it's compounded by the fact that their reality, the reality that they're exposed to is very different from what they're seeing in front of them. So I guess my question is twofold. How is there, what is the language issue? Does Road to Recovery teach its volunteers Arabic? And how is the communication in general?
אולי שולי תענה, שולי.
Julie, would you like to answer?
It's another.
No.
Well, yes.
So switch on your video so we can see how beautiful you are.
I think that the picture is better, but still I cannot. I mean, it doesn't work here. It has to be allowed from the from the facilitator. Anyway, yes, there are special courses led by my friend Eyal Ofek, mainly, right, Yuval? Eyal is an Arabic teacher, long time, and he's volunteering. He's practically a driver, a volunteer who drives patients every day or every so often, but he also teaches Arabic to the. I don't know how many. I assume that hundreds already passed through his courses, right, Yuval? Now the basic, it's basic Arabic for basic conversation. We do not expect them to read books after that. but it's good enough for this 1 hour of small piece that Yuval mentioned.
Amazing, amazing. And there's another question here, it's quite an interesting one. Who actually finances the medical treatment that the Palestinians are coming to receive?
Let me answer.
Okay, Johnny.
Yes, I would like to answer that. The Palestinian authorities pay directly to the hospitals for the medical treatment. We do not get any kind of help, not from the Palestinian authorities, and not from the Israeli government or any kind of institution. We do get help from private people that donate. We do get help from some international funds. I would say that the majority of the collection comes from Israel. Only about 40% or 50% of the volunteers ask for a refund, for a petrol refund. The rest pay also for the petrol themselves. Means they don't only volunteer, they also spend the money that is for the drive, for the car, for the insurance, for everything else. However, we do need help from all the world, and but we are quite, I must say, we are quite successful in supplying our needs, but we always need some more, as everyone else.
Yeah, thank you. That's I mean, truly, you're an organization of angels. It's quite amazing.
I must say one more thing. I must say that surprisingly enough, every time I speak with somebody about a donation, I get a positive answer. It means not because I am so talented, but because people understand the need and people react very nicely.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm very sure. We've got another question here. This is from Itzhak Sonnenschein, who's with the World Zionist Organization here in the UK. Can one of you, Alona or Yuval or Johnny, can one of you or Shuli describe a typical treatment, a typical day from your own perspective, a typical journey?
What do you mean? We just started. That was our only ball. What? Game's over.
Hello, sorry, there was someone was unmuted. Yeah, so if one of you could address that question.
For me, a typical day for me, for example, tomorrow I will wake up at 4:30. I'll go to a checkpoint that's called Barta checkpoint. I'll take a patient to Tel HaShomer. And one of the patients that I'll take needs to go to Hadassah and Karem in Jerusalem. So first of all, I'll go to Sheba and then to Hadassah and Karem. So this is the morning, and then I guess I'll get back to my home. And then after afternoon, we have to get all the patients back. So it depends now. I don't know about tomorrow. It depends if we'll have enough volunteers. But usually I'm going either morning or afternoon, and both of them. It's really a long day, a lot of kilometers, but a lot of sipuk.
Satisfaction.
Yeah, because in one day I can meet a lot of people. Some of them are, I know them from long time. Some of them I know for a short time. Some of them I just meet the first time. It's the start of a new friendship. So each day is is different, and for me, it's a lot of sipuk. What is sipuk? Satisfaction is, it's not sipuk.
Satisfaction is sipuk, yes.
Okay, satisfaction.
Wonderful, wonderful. Perhaps one of you can explain a little bit more with when you're transporting, you know, Palestinian kids from Gaza or the West Bank into the Israeli hospitals. Are they always accompanied by a guardian, whether it be a parent or an uncle or an aunt or brother or sister? Are they always accompanied?
Yes, but there is a big difference between the West Bank and Gaza.
Yeah.
In Gaza, we confront a lot of problems with the permission, a lot. The problems is in terms of our security system that prevent the parents to come with their kids. So a lot of times we meet a grandfather or grandmother that they are the escort of the grandchild, and it's really very tough situation to see the kids that he needs, his parents. This is what naturally he needs. And yesterday, I took 3 kids from Gaza to Jerusalem, to Shaarei Tzedek. All of them, all the 3 kids came with their grandmothers. So it's yeah, always with escort. We confront, it's very rare, a case that they don't have any escort because all the family prevent from some reason. So in this case, they one of the neighbors, or I don't know, comes. And one time we took just the patient because they cannot find any escort, and it was an emergency case. So we just took it's a case, but it's happened in Gaza. In the West Bank, I can say no problem in this kind of.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Alona, during your presentation, you mentioned a young child who needed daily treatment. And we have a question here asking, can he or she stay in Israel during their treatment rather than having to make the trip daily? Is the trip made daily, or does the child indeed get to stay in Israel?
Yuval will elaborate, but it depends first of all on the medical situation. If a child or patient has to be hospitalized, it's one situation. And we've had some cases where people had to be hospitalized for a time. And as I mentioned, we have among us also Arab Israeli volunteers. And I remember in one of the cases, a volunteer, she made sure to find a home where the wife, I think it was a wife, could stay and come daily from the village to the hospital nearby. So we have such cases, and then we try to accommodate and help. So that's why there are very different ways for volunteers to reach out and assist, not only by driving. And in some cases, it's really a daily ride. Maybe Yuval, you want to elaborate on it?
Yeah, the dialysis, we have now just one kid that every day except Tuesday and Saturday, we took every day from Jenin to Rambam Hospital dialysis. I must say that they established a unit, dialysis unit in the West Bank. I'm talking about the last 4 years that they established it. Before that, they didn't have any dialysis, pediatric dialysis in the West Bank. So now it's become better in the West Bank.
Truly, truly amazing. It really is. Do you have, through your work and through the years, have you developed any relationships with other Palestinian organizations, putting aside, you know, the Palestinian Authority and I guess the official contacts you have to go through with Gaza? Have you developed any other good relationships with any other Palestinian organizations that help you foster better relations?
Not we more concentrate on the work here in Israel.
Yeah,
we had some relationship with an organization in the West Bank that called Greenland, which deal with kind of paramedical. So it's a little bit. We have some שיתוף פעולה, some connection with, but on a daily basis, Basmat El Amal. Basmat El Amal, it means smile of hope. That's what it means.
Right.
This is the organization that's located in Gaza, and they are the address for all the patients in Gaza. And on a daily basis, we are in contact with them in terms of coordination. And in the West Bank, we have connection with a man called Naim El-Beida. This guy, for the last 10 years, he is the one that in charge of all the coordination in the West Bank. So he worked with some Palestinian women that, again, on a daily basis, they are in contact with our coordinators.
I would like to add something about Naim.
Do, Alona.
Naim is really like, you asked about organizations, and Naim is exactly the opposite of an organization. It's a one-man organization. This, when I joined Voluntary Recovery and we were going to Kibbutz Dot Yam, one of the kibbutz where we do the Day at the Sea, we wanted to speak to the youth of the kibbutz because we wanted them to volunteer and help out in the water, with the water activities. And so we wanted to make it like an educational gathering and meeting where they could also meet Palestinians that are living not far away, but they don't get to meet. And Yuval said, okay, but we must get Naim. Can you pick him up? He'll be working, he has a work day. Naim is a construction worker. He works daily in construction in Israel. And I knew that this is how he gets his living. But only when I reached my car and I saw this guy wearing his clothes full of paint from a hard day's work, sitting at the sidewalk waiting for the ride, I really understood that he has a hammer in one hand and the cell phone on the other, and he stands on I don't know what story and starts to coordinate. How old is the boy? You need a safety chair? Okay, yeah, no, that car isn't good. I need one with a... And this guy, he starts his day very early, and at the end of the day, he hardly gets home, gets a meal, gets a shower, and gets all the phone calls of the people that phoned him, asking him to try and coordinate a ride for them. So he's really a very extraordinary guy. And talking about how connections are formed, so one of our volunteers that during the years formed a strong friendship with him said to him, heard that he has an olive grove. Olive grove, you said? So,
yes.
And, you know, when the time comes, you have to go and pick it at the right time. So some of our volunteers helped out to pick the olives. And then this volunteer said, hey, but you know what? He makes such wonderful olive oil and olives. Maybe I can get some, and whoever wants to buy some, I will send him the money. You can buy it from me. So these are all sorts of small initiatives that kind of mushroom out of these encounters.
It's mind-blowing in the most wonderful way. It truly is. You know, we've had a lot of messages saying, you know, congratulating you guys on the wonderful work, and everyone without fail is saying how heartwarming it is. So, you know, here's to your continued success in the future, and please God, one day soon, sooner rather than later, we'll know more peace with, you know, from Israel and its immediate neighbors. But I mean, in the meantime, the work is fantastic. And for everyone who's still with us, we will be sending out an email tomorrow with details of Road to Recovery, details of their website, details of how you can make a donation if you would like to do so. So bear with us, and tomorrow we'll be sending all of that information out to everyone tonight who's attended, including a link to this evening's webinar. So that, you know, if any of you have missed a bit, or for those of you who've had to leave early, you can pick up from where you left off. But on behalf of us at the Zionist Federation and my colleagues at the World Zionist Organization here in the UK, from the very bottom of our hearts, thank you. It doesn't express it enough, but thank you.
Stephen.
Thank you. Shalom. Shalom, Yuval. Shalom, Alona. This is Ronnie Cohen here.
Hey, Ronnie.
Ronnie, yes.
On behalf of the Road to Recovery, I want to thank you and Dima for an unbelievable good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate very much the possibility you gave us to tell a little bit about our organization. And with such a very good and very nice cooperation all the way. Really, it's really very well appreciated. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, everyone. For those of you who are still with us, we have another webinar next week all about the Knesset, the history of the Knesset, because it's coming up for the 72nd anniversary of the Knesset. So join us for that. You can see details on our social media. It's next Tuesday, the 26th at 7 p.m. And then we'll start to advertise more webinars in the very near future. But on behalf of us all, and I'm sure our guests this evening as well, we wish all of you at Road to Recovery the very best, and the best of success and luck for your future trips.
Thank you so much.
Okay, God bless. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
חבר'ה, אני אשלח וואטסאפ אחד, אני אשלח